What's up, Ableton Ninjas? Mr. Sakatumi here. And with the release of Live 12 and some of its new MIDI generators, we're going to have a look at how we can generate interesting and unpredictable MIDI ideas, which we will then use to create audio and video clip arrangements. So in a nutshell, we will use MIDI to place audio and video clips in arrangement view with the help of some MIDI generating. How are we going to do that? Let's dive in. So firstly, we need to set up the IIIE driver, because we want to do MIDI mapping from within Ableton. Normally we use an external controller, but for this purpose we want to use the notes out of the piano roll. In OS X, the IIIE driver can be found in the MIDI Studio preferences. For Windows users, you can use MIDI yoke, but you can update me or correct me in the comments below. The IIIE driver is kind of like Rewire. It's a virtual connection that allows you to transfer MIDI between programs. In this case, we're going to send MIDI out of Ableton and then back into Ableton, allowing Ableton to control itself. Click on the icon to make sure the device is online. And once I've done that, I'll head to the MIDI preferences in Ableton. In the MIDI tab, I'll make sure the output of the IIIE driver is set to track, and that the input is set to remote, so we can move to the next step. So in order for Live 12's new MIDI generators to trigger audio and video clips and have them recorded into arrangement view, I need to be able to map MIDI notes to each particular clip slot. As you can see, I'm going to send the MIDI out of the IIIE driver, which will then come back through the input of the IIIE driver to map to these particular clip slots. Let's switch to arrangement view. I've created a MIDI clip, and if you look in the piano roll below, you can see that I've set the note to C1, and the next MIDI clip is set to C#1, and then D1, and then D#1. So what I'm going to do is queue up this MIDI clip, go into MIDI map mode, select a clip slot, hit play, and map it to that. Enter MIDI map mode with Command M or Control M for Windows, select the clip slot, and as I hit play, you'll see it getting mapped to MIDI note C1. Let's go out of MIDI map mode, queue up the next clip, which will be C#1, go back into MIDI map mode, select the clip slot, hit play, and map that. Skipping ahead, as you can see, I've mapped each clip slot to the MIDI notes that I've chosen. Now we need to load them with some sounds. I'll be using some very short sounds. For the purposes of this demo, it'll be easier to demonstrate. Here I'll be using some sounds from the Ableton Live Pack Trap Drums by Sound Oracle. And once you've loaded the clips into the clip slots, be sure to check that the launch quantize is set to none and not global, as we want the generators to be doing all the timing for this. So let's take a closer look. So the idea is, if I trigger this MIDI clip with the note C1, it'll go out the IIIE driver and actually trigger this audio clip. Okay, I'm happy with that. So to access Live 12's new MIDI generative tools, you need to create a MIDI clip. I'll double click and then head to the Generative Tools tab. And in the drop-down list, you'll see the various generators: Rhythm, Seed, Shapes, Stacks, Euclidean, and Max MIDI Generator. For the purposes of this demonstration, I'm only going to focus on two, Seed and Euclidean. Seed is really quite cool because I can actually customize the pitch range to the notes that I've actually mapped my clip slots to. A nice option to actually use the piano roll to select the pitch range. You can actually hold down Option and then drag the range that you desire. And because the 4 clip slots that I've MIDI mapped to only range between C1 and D#1, I'm actually going to select the same range accordingly. And you'll see the info adjust to your new settings. As we are only triggering audio clips, the duration range is irrelevant, and so is the velocity range, as these would apply to instruments, or any effects device that could benefit from these kind of parameters. With voices, you can specify how many MIDI notes will be simultaneously played, and density the amount of MIDI notes generated in the piano roll. The Generate button will randomly generate and arrange MIDI notes according to your settings, which will in turn launch the audio clips above. Let's play. So if you go back into Seed and hit the Generate button again, you'll generate an extra set of notes. Let's try that. As you can see, generating more MIDI notes can actually get quite crazy. And to add to that craziness, every time a clip gets launched, the clip view actively gives it a focus. So the best way to see this process in action would be to drag the clip to arrangement view. So let's do that. When I hit play, you'll still hear the audio clips being triggered in session view. No arrangement yet, you'll just hear it being played. Now let us hit record and generate some audio clips in arrangement view from the session view clips. How cool is that? I'm going to click back to arrangement, disable the MIDI clip, and that way we'll be able to play back the audio clip arrangement that was generated by Seed. An interesting pattern, an interesting rhythm. It's nice to see how the generated MIDI can be translated into an audio arrangement. Let's take this idea a step further and actually improvise with Seed and kind of like generate MIDI on the fly and see what happens with the audio arrangement. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to duplicate our original idea, and then I'm going to change it to loop to be able to extend it, as well as change the color so we can see the variation between our original and new idea. I'm just going to extend it further out so it gives us enough jamming time. From experimenting with this idea, I've learned that you actually have to hit play first and then record, not record, otherwise it's not going to work out and you won't have access to the Seed generator as you're jamming. Let's have some fun. As you can see, treating this generative tool like an instrument, you can kind of find sweet spots. You can kind of feel out when there's too much in the parameters that you're tweaking or just the right amount where the arrangement starts to make sense and also sounds more natural to your ears. Or maybe you want to do something crazy. Let's listen back. Remember, these are just generative MIDI tools. You can always simplify the parameters or edit down the arrangement. Here's a beat I made earlier. I want to add some interest to my beat, so I'm going to use Meld, the new MPE synthesizer in Live 12, as well as Raw, the new color and saturation device. A nice feature in Live 12 is the ability to view the devices and the piano roll at the same time. This is a great time saver if you want to be editing these simultaneously. I'm actually going to use the C generator once more to generate some melodic content. And the nice thing is, with the scale mode set to Dorian in C, I'm able to generate notes that will be in key to the song that I've chosen. So let's have a listen. How cool is that? So let's check out another MIDI generator and apply it to video clips. And over here, I'm using some illustrations once again by Inka Kenzia, aka The Girl. And I've rendered those illustrations with sounds from the Balinese Gamelan Ableton Live Pack by Sonic Coutier. And this is what they look and sound like. So let us drag these video clips into session view, and then I'm going to place them into the top clip slots, which I've pre-MIDI mapped like earlier on. As you can see, I've MIDI mapped them to C2, C#2, D2 and D#2. This way, there won't be any conflict with the MIDI mappings I did earlier on with Seed. I've just created a new MIDI clip and I'm heading to the generative tools. This time, I'm going to use the Euclidean sequencer, which is based on subdivisions of whole numbers. I've already set up some parameters. What I do like about this device is the dice in the middle that can actually randomly generate some variations as we play. So I'm going to hit play and then record and improvise like I did earlier on. And hit the dice. Working with video can be a little bit more complicated than audio triggering, and this is a simplified idea that I came up with earlier, and it looks like this. Sometimes simplicity with video works best. So let's take a listen to all these ideas together. Live 12's new MIDI generators are super powerful, creative tools and a lot of fun to use. I hope they inspire you to experiment and kickstart ideas. This is Mr. Sakatumi saying thank you to you and catch you next time.